So I'm really pleased to have Ari on this panel, along with Amy and Bhanu, three very different perspectives on a theme. And the theme here is what I would coin the sort of the Trinity. I'm not going to say the Holy Trinity, but the Trinity, the security triangle, the people, the security officers, the technology that supports them, and the defensive architecture around protecting a built asset or protect a publicly accessible location, whatever it is. And this session specifically is about how technology supports those officers. We're going to hear about the officers and the contracts and stuff later on, but this one here is specifically how technology in different forms can aid the security officers in creating a holistic security approach to protecting an asset. So I'm going to come to Bhanu first because, you know, Bhanu has built systems, most notably for some British iconic institutions, can I say? Yeah, British Library. British Library, V&A Museum. This guy designed the technology that went into those. And whilst we can't talk about the British Library denial of service attack, I can say that the only system that didn't fall over was Bhanu's system, which was the security system. So I think, Bhanu, if I come to you first, when you're considering the implementation of technology, what people considerations are most vital to you as a technologist?
Again, when it comes to people, you have your own staff, and then you also have visitors to your premises. The client I deal with have a really high footfall, so basic considerations are always important, such as point of interest, entry, exit points. Then you upgrade that by technology such as with people, you ensure that you have maximum coverage, which are basic consideration before you jump into AI. Then once you achieved all that perfectly, a good design is always very important. Of course, within the budget, you don't want to flood the equipment, just to cover the risk. You can't chuck money at it. You have to have optimum risk such that your operators are using those systems efficiently. Then you can add another a layer on top with analytics, such that you reduce the pressure on your manpower. Also, you do integration, which is integrating all the systems such that the operators and your security officers are not diving into different systems to gather evidence, produce the reports. Also, for mobile patrol teams, you have incident managers as well as panic buttons. So all these considerations are quite important, such that your premises are secure when you have people moving around and visiting your premises who actually generate your revenues. So to give away two critical points is analytics, which is quite prevalent now compared to back when I started. And the next thing is integration, such that your operators' deliverables are efficiently tuned.
I think integration is probably one of those things that is quite often overlooked, especially if you're not a technologist or you're not familiar with writing an operational requirement. It's all very well putting in an Eagle-Eye Network CCTV system and then going to a Gallagher fencing system, and you've got an access control system and a key management system. But if those things are not talking to each other, you've got a lot of tech on different screens, different places. So I mean, what are the common sort of failures that will happen if you don't have an integrator pulling those things together?
Cost increase straight away. Manufacturers' recommendations not being followed. Integrators not being able to maintain your system properly, correctly. So your equipment operational downtime is maximum. Once again, your premises are not secure, so you have reputation damage, asset loss, critical accidents not being covered, so you get penalties by governing bodies. All those day-to-day stuff you see in the newspapers. More importantly, reputation damage. For iconic institutions, more than the money is reputation, which is quite important. So all those will be at risk.
I think, Ari, Bhanu sets up there for that reputation thing for museums where people come in there free to access their publicly accessible locations, and you have a duty to protect those people. So tell us about how VSS footage, and you gave us an insight. I think this is where I want to try and look at where this is all going and how VSS can, video surveillance systems, can assist in those collaborative projects.
So I think a good example is one of our partners delivered an important railway operator system for their over, I think, 1,600 cameras across 40-odd stations, that they had the issue of when something happens, okay, you have the British Transport Police wanting to access the footage, you have the operator of the certain station wanting to access the headquarters, everybody comes in and wants to get a hold of that footage to investigate and solve a crime. And how do you do it securely, GDPR-wise, knowing who accessed what, and making sure that only the people who have access to it have the access? And how do you make sure that it's not on-premise where you have the bandwidth issues of one location, where in the cloud you can have multiple places? So that's something we solved for them, and that created a lot of efficiency. And that's even before we launched our AI bit, right? AI bit came after that solution. And that saved them hours and hours of operator time, because now when something happens, they were able to search just by typing free text what they were looking for in an efficient way.
Yeah, this is where the analytics, the onboard analytics, you can put in searching for male red coat, and it will search through the footage and find that for you, which is saving hours, if not days, of people sifting, which is how we used to do things. But I'm really interested now, because when we spoke before, you were saying there's a real-time application for a multi-agency response. The police need to see live footage, whether that's a crime in progress or marauding terrorist attack. But you can now, if I'm right, if I heard you right, we can now give access remotely for live interventions.
Yeah. So integration is key part of a platform like us, right? So we plumb the video data and we make it available through API so that all the developers, all the different companies can develop solutions around that. And one of them is something we are really proud of. We launched it now in the US. It's called 911 camera sharing, where as an end user, you can opt in to that service, so that this software that runs over 95% of the US coverage now, if someone at the vicinity makes a 911 call, and if that location has opt-in to that, the cameras from the vicinity of that 911 call becomes available through the operator, to the police, or the fire brigades attempting to go to the site. So that could be life-saving in a fire situation and kidnapping situation, and in the US especially, shooters in schools, for example, right?
Yeah.
So that, and we are trying to get that to UK as well.
And there is, there's always criticism of ambulance crews' reluctance to go into a hot zone. They're not supposed to go into hot zones during a terrorist attack. But now having live feeds from cameras within that vicinity gives them a better way of understanding what the threat is within that environment. I think that's key. I think the PCPI, wherever they are, probably pricking their ears up right now. But Amy, I want to come on to you, because what Morse Watchman is key management systems, and I've worked with key management systems. RFID card, if you're not familiar with, tap your access control card on, it opens a cabinet, you're allowed to withdraw the keys, which just seems like a fairly innocuous, necessary thing within a regulated place, where you have to manage those keys specifically. But there's more to it than that, isn't there? There are other applications where that can help with safety and security. You want to explain one of those examples?
Absolutely, yeah. Electronic key management can offer several features and benefits to any organisation, particularly, across the national infrastructure. Safety comes in. Bruce, wherever the gentleman is, mentioned earlier, you mentioned security, which is really what we're renowned for, but then you put the element of safety in, then yes, the organisation's ears will gently start to prick up, and they'll take the time to listen. Now, those features that can be offered is, it could be controlled access to high-risk areas. So if you've got only the personnel that are trained and certified to be within those target areas, you are then reducing and minimising the risk of any accidents taking place. The systems, they can offer a full audit trail as well, so you can pretty soon uncover any irregularities that will be taking place across that, and then act on that, putting that into the SOPs for safety. The other thing as well is the notifications, so you can be sent email and or text message notifications. That then provides immediate action should there be any safety breaches that are of concern right there in real time. And the integration possibility, as these gents have already mentioned, it allows a coordinated approach to any incidents that have taken place. In particular, one feature that I'm quite fond of, particularly in the likes of power stations and so on, as we've discussed before, is really the fact that, say for example, personnel, their certification has come to its expiry date. You can set the system so that maybe the day before or the evening before, as long as that certification has been revalidated, they can then continue access and permissions to the system. If it hasn't, and there's an issue with compliance to safety, then access to the system can be shut off until again it's revalidated on there.
I think where I've seen a useful crossover beyond security and in the safety sphere, as you mentioned, is where a key's been signed out, and if that key's not back in on time and it's an end of shift and somebody's not returned it, that can suggest that worker is still in, the danger area, whatever that business might be.
Indeed, yeah.
And that can initiate then, a lone worker safety protocol.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I'll just go back to the power stations. They, in particular at the moment, are really hot on working with us. And in particular for the likes of lockdown situations, if you've got a lone worker, as you've said, somebody else within that organisation is not aware that colleague of theirs is in that situation and goes and turns one of the turbines on, for example, that can be life-threatening and quite critical. So it does play a big part. So
Ari, if I come to you now, we've already covered off the post-incident investigation aspect, but I'm interested to where this is going. Where is the analytics going to take us beyond just searching for the red coat in terms of post-incident review?
So what's happening today actually is like I showed earlier. So the models are becoming more problem solving for specific cases, right? So, for example, we have a customer who runs shared workspaces around the globe, and they have a problem about chairs being moved around and they can't find it, right? So very simple, not a huge security problem, but we never thought of deploying a chair model to the platform, but we just did it for them because that's a problem-solving issue. So it will be more specific, more customized, and I think that's where it's going to go, until it goes ChatGPT way, that we're just the element of human check at the last stage where everything will be watched all the time.
I think what you've just given an example there of how security can add value to the business, and even if that's missing chairs, you're now adding some value, right? And business insight through analytics and what you can learn from your high footfall as to dynamics of who's coming in, and you hear about the likes of Harrods where their cameras will spot a big spender and it will flag up to a customer service, one of the special customer service people that always can find me when I walk into Harrods, and they will say, hello Mr. Big Spender, great to see you back, and that person feels special. That's those sort of analytics is adding value in that way. So Bhanu, on your side of the within the museums and publicly accessible locations piece, because we've just covered off integration, I'd be more interested to know how those establishments may be using that big data that your systems are pulling together.
Again, all these enterprise solutions for such big environments, end users are not very tech savvy, so they don't fully understand the integration aspects. So you have to bring it down to operational level, explain, and basically my job is to ensure all the technical features are broken down into operational procedures, which are quite efficient. It's not that so that difficult, but as an integrator and as an independent consultant or integrators to these big premises, use them on daily basis, but it's their ability to speak to the manufacturers and bring it down to the end users, the benefits. So in a nutshell, yes, we are quite, the big enterprise customers are using them on day-to-day quite efficiently, but not as efficiently still we can take the technology to, such as identifying the incidents using the AI. That's still not there, because when it comes to integration, people are still daunted, worried with the technical jargon. So there's still more can be exploited, but which so it's still opportunities available even this time of age where everything is saturated and everyone keep hearing these words. There's still a room for more integration, more analytics usage.
So Amy, last question for you. Now we're coming down to 2 minutes, but a bit of a curveball, because it is about people. But the insider threat. I mean, how can key management systems aid with insider threat issues?
I think particularly if it's integrated key management with access control and video surveillance, they all work hand in hand to be quite a successful deterrent for any insider threat. One for me in particular that we work with the healthcare sector, where they are very much at high risk for insider threat. There's the controlled drugs areas, there's the surgical equipment that can be stolen. There's also the patient and indeed the staff belongings, and as we touched on earlier, data, people's data records are one that are really hot to trot. Now, to have all that integrated system to try and deter these individuals, again, it kind of instills a positive mental attitude within the organisations to not behave in such a corrupt manner. Unfortunately, we can't deter it the entire time, obviously. But by having those audit trails of who's had what, where and when, gives a lot of accountability to the staff, and really you'd like to think there's no getting away with
it's increasing the risk perception for the criminal now. They're looking at what they're going to get away with against the risk of being caught. Now there's an increased risk of being caught, and I think that
it's a bit of a stiff upper back, basically, to implement a better attitude towards the working practice. And again, I'll go back to the controlled drugs area, whereby we're coming up for the 20th year since the final report for the shipment inquiry. And whilst practices have shifted in a very positive direction, there's still a lot more improvement required. And these systems, they can offer dual, triple authenticity. So senior members of staff again are notified, be it via email, the text as I referred to earlier, or indeed that member of staff has to go to their senior member to be able to have both of them or three of them sign the drugs out.
It's all tools, isn't it? Different things that address different threats, and you've got to weave these things together. I think that's becoming the thread of the day. Okay, well then we will thank our panellists and we'll move on. Thanks guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.